the member portal on the AAAA website. And I am going to talk about local area marketing, but I'm going to do it through our journey through the interactive car park data by area. So as I work through this, a couple of things to note. I'm going into this as Tiff's Auto Workshop, and I'm in the suburb of Cheltenham in Victoria. And one of the things that I have done that you will also need to do is just do your member login, so you'll have your username and your password. If you don't have that handy, absolutely no problem. Please just contact us and we will arm you with that information so that you can get in. Once you're in the member portal, you're going to hit this market intelligence button and the car park data. And as I just mentioned, the first slide pack you're going to come across here is the interactive car park data by area. And just going over onto these three buttons here, the bottom one takes us to a full screen. All right. So moving right along, the first thing I'm going to do when I jump in here is I'm in Cheltenham, so my postcode, 92, which tells me that I am in the local government area of Bayside. Okay, good to go. Next one. And I'm going to click on this first button here, which is the car park. And I know my local government area is Bayside towards the top, so I'll just scroll down. But if you're a long way down, I'd suggest you might want to type that in. And this is pretty interesting from the get-go. So what I see in there is, when you look at the national population, 17.5 million cars, what does that mean for me, where I am? So in my area of Bayside, you can see there that I've got about 63,000 cars that are clearly in independent workshop available market, right? Which is these two here, the 5 to 7 years old cars and the 8+. One of the things to note with the 5 to 7s is that the 5 to 7 year olds are likely transitioning from the dealer to independent workshop. So one of the things we've talked about internally here is that there's a clear opportunity that if you nurture these well, they are going to become your loyal repeat business. The other thing you've got is over 25,000 cars that are likely, quite possibly, still in dealer land, but they are definitely your new business pipeline for our independent workshops. Now, another thing to point out here is, when you look at the national population, and I look at Bayside, and you might go, well, really, how different is each area? And even if you just do, and I'm just in the Bs, you can see how that proportion of the 0 to 5 years, 5 to 7 years, and 8 years plus really does change, and of course the quantum, but it's more about the proportion, which is a good indication. Oh, hold on one second. Of how the population changes and its unique attributes for your area. All right, so I'm in Bayside and I know what I'm working with here. So as I move on to this slide 5, which is the total car park over time, what this shows me, quite simply, is that Bayside has grown. It's just these numbers in each area, in each split of the car age groups, is larger. There has been a slight increase in the newer cars, but by and large, what I take from this slide is that I have got a larger market size to grow my business in. Okay. So slide 6. Now, this is where I have my first wow moment. Because when you look at 2014 and you look at the profile of cars where we start with Toyota, Holden, Ford, and of course we're just looking at Marks at the moment, And then that change where we've got Mazda now the second highest mark in 2019. I'm like, okay, that's quite a big change over a 5-year period. So what does that mean for me? And what it means to me is, I guess, a couple of things is I can start creating some marketing planning around this. And that's why I want to sit on this slide for a little while, because the first one, and I know this is a really important marketing tool for independent workshops, is our Google search. So when I look at my top marks being Toyota, Mazda, Holden, Mercedes-Benz, Volkswagen, they're all performing quite strongly there. But the other thing I notice, and it's worthwhile, and as you put your mouse over the age groups, it'll highlight just those categories. And what you can see in the 0 to 5 is the growth in the newer cars, in the Mazda, in the Mercedes-Benz, in the Volkswagen. So that's pretty interesting. And what that says to me is, okay, new business prospecting and building my pipeline for my future customer base. I really want to start targeting my keywords around potentially something like this: Mazda service, Toyota service, Mazda in warranty service, Toyota specialist servicing, Mercedes-Benz service. So starting to call out car brands that those customers will relate to, car brands that will trigger something, a connection, a element of curiosity for customers in your area. The other thing that we can do is, again, using insight at just this level, and we haven't gone any deeper yet, to start creating, carrying that theme of tailoring through, Facebook posts that have Toyota, Mazda, Mercedes and Volkswagens in the photos, videos and posts to show that I specialise in those makes. Further, I'll write posts and show images that communicate that I service those cars in their warranty period, and ask readers potentially to click on an article where I highlight why my service is higher quality than my competition. What makes coming to me different and more competitive than potentially going to a dealer service centre or something else. Now, at this point, I'm doing two things. Again, we're only on slide 6 and we're only at the higher level of tailoring and segmenting. At this point, I'm not only promoting my business to the right target audience, but I'm making the search and selection process easier for them. Finding the right mechanic is a customer pain point that you are already addressing. The other thing that we can do, again, to do that multi-layered approach, so one of the things that I talked about in my last presentation about local area marketing was the importance of integration and the importance of using the full marketing mix to really get your message across and to position your workshop the way that you want it to achieve the goals for your business. So the next element of the marketing mix that you can start using here is putting up some signage and branding around the workshop that says, I specialise in Toyota or Mazda. Ask me about Mazda servicing within the warranty period. You can choose your repairer. Or, again, maybe tapping into the European profile in some of my vehicles there. Position yourself as a European car specialist, increasing branding in the workshop and in your advertising with Mercedes, VW, and maybe your BMW branding. In terms of having the or there, and that option there, is you can scan your local competition to assess what might be best for you, noting that the volume of Toyota and Mazda is greater. However, the average margin per surface may be better on your European brands. But you'll know that, you'll know your area. What you can do here is use that data to start inquiring about different options that might be best for your business. Alrighty, so that's just our marks. So next level, our top models, again, in Bayside. So what I'm looking at here, so one of the things that I noticed in a previous slide was, of course, Holden looked like it was slipping back and Mazda was making a run for the lead. But of course, what we're looking at here is that top models in Bayside Holden Commodore's the top of the list. Now, this will make sense shortly when we look at the demographics, which is coming up. However, let's have another look at what we can do with this data to inform our marketing decisions. So, again, I'm just using my mouse over these buttons. So our 8 years plus, this is most likely our independent workshop market. And so a question for your business is, do I see this profile of car model coming through my workshop? And if not, why not? And if they're not coming to me, where are they going? And when I look at these models and some of the differences between these models, the Holden Commodore might be the top of the list for models in my area, but do I want them? And again, it's just, and this is certainly one of the things to appreciate in the car park data, is that it may generate more questions than it answers, and that's a really good thing. That's really healthy in terms of getting to what are the right questions and answers to make the most out of your business. Okay. So again, with these top models in mind, all the sort of targeting that I spoke about with the marks and applying that to your marketing mix, you can do the same thing here. You can take your keyword search and, you know, once you select a set of keywords, you don't have to use them all the time. Test them for a few weeks, see what happens. If some are way outperforming others, then you know you're going to keep them there, but then introduce some new ones and test those as well. And that's the same thing with your social media marketing, and particularly how you set up your Facebook for Business page. You know, you're going to get vehicle data and demographic data in here that's going to line up with the decisions that you're going to be making in Facebook really well. So, you know, again, you're going to have some great data that you can start making decisions on, and then just test and trial them over time. Okay. So, speaking about demographics. All right. So this is Bayside. So what insights can I take from this simple one page? My first one is, if I look at the age visual there, my first one is this in Bayside. My area skews towards older. 62% of my population is over 45. And they're kind of in the family zone, which explains, you know, some of the models we saw before and why our population of newer CX5s and older Foresters is up there. And it also, you know, making some generalizations about population, which you are allowed to do. You might want to test them over time. It may explain the large number of smaller models as well. When we look at average weekly income, what I know about the Bayside area is that there's a few suburbs in there that have really inflated this average weekly income, and that is not necessarily the norm across my whole local government area. Now, I can know that and I can be happy with that based on my local knowledge. This might be one of these things, if it doesn't feel quite right to you, if it doesn't sit with what you know about your area, this is where you might like to ask us for more information. This is where you might go, you know what, that doesn't feel right, and it might be right for the whole local government area, but I just want to know about these 3 or 4 suburbs, and you can ask us for that. Okay. Now, based on this one, the average number of cars per household, what this says to me is that I'm going to ask every customer if they own another car, because I know I've got 50% chance of getting a yes and turning that into new business. The other thing that I'm going to do, based on the average number of children per household being slightly higher in the Bayside area, is in my marketing communications, I'm going to make sure, it may not be all the time, but I'm going to make sure that I've got some regular messages in there about safety, because it's going to resonate with people in my area. Now, as I mentioned before, this kind of demographic data actually helps us to make some really good decisions about how to use Facebook for Business. Just from looking at this one page, I have a better idea of what family, age and geographic parameters to select for targeting and testing within Facebook. and potentially Instagram. All right. So now, when we were on slide 6, and let me go back, we saw all those Toyotas and the Mazdas as the most popular vehicles or marques in our area. Now, we all know there's a very big range of vehicles within Toyota and Mazda. So this is where we go to this area where we can start looking at models by marque. Okay. Wow. So who the heck is driving all those Corollas? That's a lot of Corollas in one area. It's virtually a market in itself. If you're a small workshop and there's 2,000 Corollas, even more, nearly 3,000 Corollas in your area, that's definitely something you can focus on. So with my marketing hat on, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to test some tailoring in my search, social, database, and in-store marketing around Toyota Corolla, because there's too many of them not to. Now, one of the things to think about, and you may well know this in your local area, but this is where you can take this little hint of an insight and do some detective work yourself and maybe find out if there's larger businesses or medium to large size businesses in your area who have got fleets of Toyota Corollas. Okay, well, once you know that, then what do you do? So again, one of the things that I spoke about in my marketing presentation a couple of weeks ago, integration, part of integrating, different elements of the marketing mix, it is really tapping into that community spirit and being part of the community that you work in. So if you know that a business has got a fleet of Toyota Corollas, there's no reason why you can't knock on their door and engage with them in some way. Connect with that business, whether it's through an event, education, or a special offer just targeted to their staff, if that's the sort of business that you want. But it's an option. It's something that you can have a play with. The other thing that we're looking at here, of course, is seeing the difference in the number of smaller vehicles, so your Toyota Corolla compared to your Toyota Hilux. You're probably going to be speaking to very different demographics in there. So maybe your messaging might be tweaked a little differently. You might talk to other, or tap into other social media influencers that are likely going to hit the mark with a target audience for those vehicles specifically. The other one worth having a look at, as I said, is our ever popular Mazda in the Bayside area. So look, you can see here you've got the model breakdown by each of the marques. So I did find this one quite interesting, the number or the proportion of under 5-year-old Mazda 3s and the CX-5. And then of course still the large number in the 8. So again, you can have a play around with that knowledge, run it through your local area marketing activity, and if that's the sort of car you want, start using that branding and that naming throughout your marketing messaging to attract the audience that has those cars. All right, so the rest of this slide deck has just got more marques and models, so I won't go any further with that. However, I did just want to wrap up this section of the webinar by just, I guess, going back into, take a first step with this. Sign into the member portal, get into the car park data, start exploring. I've just shown you how easy it is to use and how many thoughts and opportunities it can generate just by having a think about the insights that are there at this level. If the local government areas work for you, that's great. You can apply your data findings to your marketing plans and crack on with growing your business. If they don't, you can contact AAAA to request data that is specific by postcodes for you. Now, I know we've got Rob Johnson and Nigel Bishop on the webinar tonight, so they know what I'm promising when I say feel free to contact them So that's Rob or Nigel, and they can certainly help you in the first instance. Or just send us an email to AAA and we can start helping you get the data that you want for your area. And it's important to point out as well that getting that data by postcode, just so you know, and maybe just asking that initial question, you could have a postcode report for your area as soon as within about 24 hours of you asking for it. And at that sort of basic next level, it's at no additional cost to members. So really, if you want to know more, why wouldn't you ask? The other thing that I wanted to point out in just wrapping this up is that, as I said before, your marketing plan really should contain a good mix of digital, search, social and database marketing tactics, and testing some local area advertising and community engagement, which gives you the opportunity to build your brand awareness, position your brand with the sort of servicing and services that you want to offer, and build up a good pipeline of new business to help yourself grow, particularly post-COVID-19.